Alright, so after long and delay, the front suspension system is finally here. Now I did have to open part of this, so when you ordered it, it comes in a 5-box set. And someone called and said that I was potentially shipped one box that was not the correct box for the set, but it turns out it was. So everything's finally arrived. Like I said, I did have to open one part of it, so let's go ahead and get started with this. So this was the one box that I had to open, and all I had to do was essentially pull out one of the control arms for them to verify. So this box has all the upper control arms. That's an upper, I think. There's another control arm. So these are probably the lower control arms. See, I was more excited for the front suspension for some reason. I mean, the rear is cool, don't get me wrong, but I just think there's going to be much more improvement in the front system. So yeah, there is that. So, from looking at the pictures, it looks like cross member. Wow, that bolts to the bottom of the frame rail. That's going to be quite a bit higher up than the factory cross member in these trucks. I'm guessing something like that. And then somewhere there's going to be something along those lines that probably line all that up. Cool. So that is the front suspension and all those parts. Get ready to turn this. Next box. All right. So the front shocks and springs. So they sent me the 600-pound spring set. So that may be a little bit unfortunate. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I don't know. Not that scary. An empty bag. It's supposed to be a wrench kit. It's missing. So I'm a little confused by that. Yeah. So the wrench kit's missing a wrench. So that is the shock. But again, now there's the bag. Well, this one has some other stuff in it compared to the front kit. Looks like some shock bushings, warranty card, sticker, finally. I think that's the first sticker I've seen in this whole kit. So anyway, so I'll have to probably call QA1 and find out where the wrench kit for these front shocks went. Because yeah, the empty bag thing's kind of concerning. I didn't really see anything that made it look like the box had been opened before, but apparently it has, or they wouldn't have sent me an empty bag with nothing in it. So that's a little bit unfortunate. It was a bit curious myself when Summit started calling and wanted to know if I'd received anything, and it looks kind of like these boxes have maybe been read or something. Not sure. Sweet. So let's go with this box next. So this box actually arrived already opened. So these are the front spindles. Oh yeah. So looks like that's. So there is your QA1 Front spindle. So based off what I've seen from the kit with the steering wheel locates, that's how they're going to install. So it looks like they're set up to take stock brakes for the 79 to 81 Camaro. And then you already have the holes drilled and tapped for the wheel brackets. If you want to go bigger, I'd assume you'd have to cut all this off. So, but yeah, I mean, it looks pretty solid. I don't, it's actually got QA1 cast into it. I don't know if they're actually producing these or somebody's producing them for them. That's pretty good. Let's go with this one because it looks pretty heavy box. So let's see what's going on. Boxes in a box. Inner fender trimming instructions. All right, so we're cutting up the inner fenders on the truck. That's cool. I don't want to talk about how much I paid for a good set of inner fenders for that truck. Just to cut them. It is what it is. Must move on. So, box. What's in the box? This is probably hardware, it's what it sounds like. Oh, yeah. That is a seriously ripped open bag of hardware. So, yeah, I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's a fairly sizable amount of hardware in there. So, very cool. So that's the, front suspension hardware bag. It's now everywhere. We'll even put it in a box. I'm gonna go with more hardware in this box just because. You know what I'm saying. Oh, so this box has, it's like rod ends, spacers, bushings, alignment pieces, inner frame brackets. I've seen those for the front end already, and I looked at the installation instructions online. So it looks like, 1, 2, Yeah, so unfortunately this box of hardware is kind of a lot more messed up than what the rear suspension was. I mean, maybe it was just happened in shipping, but it was, the rear suspension was packed a lot better, I feel like, but as long as it's all there, that's all that matters. So I'm guessing this is probably the rack and pinion steering system, steering piece. So I've yet to see that come out of any box. What am I doing? Opening that all wrong. Yeah. So yeah, there's the steering rack. It's a rack from a 79 to 93 Mustang. Is how that works. So that's what they're using for steering on this setup. I'm back and forth. I hope that this is more performance. I mean, anything's got to be better than the factory steering from a performance standpoint. I've driven these trucks with both power and manual steering and preferred manual steering over power for any kind of higher speed driving, because the manual or the power steering was very, very, very soft and I mean, you got no feedback from it. So hopefully this is a little more performance oriented and it gives a little bit better feedback. So I'm going to put all this back in the box right now. Pile of junk. Starting to take over my garage. So to give you an idea, on top of the kit, so my truck does not have power steering. So I'm about 500 into, oh, hello. So that's in the kit. Not sure where that goes, but I'm sure the instructions will tell us. So anyway, like I was saying, about, my truck does not have power steering. It's about 500 for power steering, the system I used, which was a power steering pump with a bracket that was designed for the Windsor engines, a few other odds and ends, power steering cooler, AN lines, or enough stuff to build AN lines is about $500 to the power steering pump. And then on top of that, for a quality steering shaft, you have to replace your steering shaft. Now I am going to retain the factory column. QA1 recommends an aftermarket column for this system, but like I said, I'm going to stay with the factory column. You can cut off the rag joint plate and find that it's splined, 3/4 inch, 36 spline shaft. It's a little bit mushened on the end to retain the plate that you can grind off and then put a universal joint on it. So with 2 universal joints, and I opted for a collapsible D-style steering shaft, it's right around $200 for that. So, you know, to add power steering and connect the steering column to the rack and pinion, it's about another $700 all in. On top of, you know, the kit itself. Oh, that's a heavy piece. So this is the other part of the front suspension piece. So it looks like that sits down over the top of the cross member, or over the top of the frame rail, and that's where your upper control arms are going to mount. So I guess it will kind of like that. And this would be mounted up in front. Oh, I can't get to anything else, but that should give you a pretty good idea. And then I had been asked for, I got a message asking about the progress of tearing the truck apart, so I can do a quick walk around on the truck and show you guys real quick where I'm at. So as you can see, like it's kind of a, well, there's the pile of everything I just unboxed. It's kind of a disaster out here right now. But so I've managed to unbolt everything off the front of the truck that bolts on. When taking this apart, So this is what I was talking about with the steering column. You can actually slit this right here. And I don't know if you can tell, but up in there, that mushroomed out end, that's hollow just to a little bit of depth, and right in here is all splined. Anyway, so this cross member comes out, all this comes out, these buckets come out, this comes off, this all comes off, all this stuff comes off. So you're down to a bare frame. And then in the back side, I've got pretty much get everything unbolted. I have to grind the rivets off of these. I believe, if I read right, this cross member comes out of the bed. But I'm not positive. I'll have to go back through and reread. Everything here should be fine, aside from just getting it cleaned up. I'm gonna take it all out, clean it up, and move everything out of the way before I start grinding and cutting, since I was grinding some of these heads last night and realized, well, there's a gas tank right there. So other than that, that's about as far as I've gone on it so far. Once this is all, I mean, I was gonna do a video on how to tear this apart, but what's the point? Like, everybody kind of understands how to take one of these apart. But once everything's painted and reassembled, once everything's cleaned up and painted, I'm going to film the assembly of it. What you got to change for brake lines to make everything work. Anything I run into, during the process, I'll try to document as good as I can. One thing I'm happy to see is that it's going to clear. There'll be a lot more room under the hood for engine headers, I think. From the way it looks so far, it looks like there's going to be a lot more room for headers, because this is a 351 Windsor-based engine, and so they don't make a set of long tube headers that bolt in. My option was to run 302 headers, which has required notch in the frame rail slightly. And hopefully once everything's done, and it also forced me to kind of twist the engine a little bit when it was all set in here and mounted up. So hopefully I can clean some of that up with this kit and give me a little bit more room. One of the biggest things that was a hindrance was the power steering box that was right there that will now be gone. That's gonna free up some room. You can see where the header kind of contacts right here. This will be gone, so that'll be some more room there as well. So hopefully that makes the header installation a little bit easier when the engine goes back in. So anyway, I will, I'll start posting more videos as I start making progress with, assembly of this suspension and what I'm doing with wheels and tires. It's actually getting the 4-speed top loader that's been in the trucks getting pulled, and I've got a TKX on order, the wide ratio TKX on order, so that I'm hopefully going to have a little lower first gear than the wide ratio top loader does, plus overdrive, which, we're all paying almost $5 a gallon for gas, and these trucks are fun to drive, but they're not cheap, so that's definitely going to help for the highway. But thanks for watching, and if you guys have any questions or whatever, drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. Thanks. Have a good evening.